All right, welcome in, everybody. WaitingForNextYear.com, the podcast series, and this is a trial run, ladies and gentlemen, as we hit the spring and spring training of the Dery Brothers Tribecast. My name is Matt Dery. You, of course, know Todd Dery on the other end of the line here. As the Indians getting ready for another season, TD, this is the best time of year, isn't it?
You know, I am very excited, as you know, as a Tribe season ticket holder. You and I have gone to many, many thousands of games in our lives together, and there's nothing better than some spring training. But this is a strange season we're heading into, and a strange feel for spring training. One unlike I'm not going to say ever felt, but it's as strange as I've felt in a really long time.
No, I don't think there's any question about that. And we're going to dive into certainly free agency and the lack of movement by the Indians. My brother's absolutely freaking out that the Minnesota Twins are going to take this division. I'm not so much. Obviously, Pacoda has come out with ratings. We'll get into that. What does Fangraphs think of the Indians as well? We'll talk about that too. Possibly get into some Trevor Bauer stuff as well. But Todd, let's start with the news of the day here. Marwin Gonzalez going to Minnesota, 2 years, $21 million. The Indians' outfield obviously is a complete shit show at the moment. And excuse our early language here, but it is. And even if you're a Greg Allen fan, you hope Bradley Zimmer comes back healthy. A guy like Marwin Gonzalez would have helped. And it's slim pickings remaining out there. And this has been an offseason that's been completely underwhelming.
Underwhelming is putting it mildly. I think when you have the pitching staff that the Indians have, you have arguably the best rotation in all of baseball with Kluber, Bauer, Carrasco, Clevenger, and Shane Bieber. I mean, how many teams go into a season knowing this is going to be their top five again for sure and make no changes and know their guys are going to be super strong and you really have no worries about it? I mean, just that doesn't happen, especially here. The bullpen, I think they've done a nice job of making us less worried than I was probably 2 months ago. And when you have a pitching staff that you have, and you have Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez, who are two of the top 9 position players in all of baseball, to essentially throw away an offseason because, quote unquote, the division's not very good, makes absolutely no sense to me. They were looking at shopping all winter long. They'd been talking about shopping Kluber and or Trevor Bauer. To me, what ownership and the front office has done this winter is as befuddling as I can ever remember. And I'm beyond frustrated, especially in the wake of Marwin Gonzalez now signing for 2 years with the Minnesota Twins, who are the team that is nipping at the Indians' heels.
Well, I'm not going to panic and say this is the roof caving in. We both know as longtime Clevelanders that the fans don't come out even if the team is very good. The fans came out and we had that 455 straight sellouts and all that other stuff because the Browns were gone and the Cavs were irrelevant. So, I don't look back and go, oh, that was such a great era for the fans. I do believe it was an unbelievable era for Indians baseball, starting in 94, going all the way, 01, 02 when it finally ended. But let's be honest, it's not a baseball town. There is an outrage and anger right now by fringe and casual Indians fans because they haven't done anything. And today, it did hit me a little bit today with the Marwin Gonzalez thing because he was a bat. He was a versatile Tito-type guy that this club could have added. And instead, he's going to a rival team that is on their heels in the division. The division is terrible. The Tigers suck. Kansas City's an embarrassment. The White Sox, struck out on Manny Machado, and now we're left with Leandro Alonso and John Jay cake all over their face. So they're not very good. But it does beg the question. We've waited for another move. I've said it. I thought they were going to wait and get into spring training and get somebody on the cheap that maybe they could steal, and it hasn't happened. And so I'm not saying the sky's falling, and I know you're very upset. I still think this team's going to win the division because of the pitching. But boy, Minnesota with what they've done with Nelly Cruz and with Jonathan Scope and adding Gonzalez, Those are all guys that the Indians could have used. Don't tell me Jonathan Scope couldn't have been at second base and Jose was at third. You move Kipnis to the outfield, and you see what happens there. Unless this organization thinks that an Oscar Mercado or a Greg Allen or somebody like that's going to have a Naquin-like 2016 spring, there's a lot of question marks in that outfield. There just is, man. You know that.
The outfield is beyond gross. But when you know that it's gross, and you're basically counting, you made a trade for this Jordan Ludlow from the Pirates, right? You got him and Max Moroff essentially for Eric Gonzalez, and what that trade was nothing more of. All of these guys are out of minor league options and need to be traded off the 40-man roster. You're counting on him and Naquin, and listen, you and I both love Greg Allen, but we're counting on him, and I can't even believe that the lack of depth. I mean, I'm not a big Adam Jones guy by any means. I think he's was a great player, and he's on the downside of his career, but you can't tell me that adding him to this roster would not make things better, especially when you know this team has lacked, especially since Mike Napoli's gone. The one thing you constantly hear is you don't have that lead by example veteran that all these guys looked up to. It was Jason Giambi for a couple years,
right.
It was Napoli, and since then it's been lacking. Adam Jones could be that guy. And at this point, how much money can Adam Jones really cost, right?
Well, no,
the most?
You're right, and I don't know what his agent's asking for. I would have preferred somebody like Marwin Gonzalez over an aging and declining Adam Jones.
Me too.
But you're right. Just the thought that the Indians would be in the mix, and I like some of the moves they've made recently with Alex Wilson and with Tyler Clippard. I do think the pen's going to be fine. I think Jeffrey Rodriguez is a name that everybody is going to need to know, because I think as long as Tito takes off the, I despise rookie glasses and allows this kid to make the team if he has a good spring. And again, we're a ways away, but that could be another guy that could be good. I'm a Jake Bauers fan. I thought that was an excellent pickup, but that wasn't going to be the only pickup with him and Santana. I thought there'd be one more move, and to sit here and wait for it, unless they think, Todd, that Naquin's the guy, Tito loves him, that Leonis Martin, when healthy now, is going to be really good, and then you throw in Greg Allen or whomever else, and maybe the outfield is going to be better than people think. I'm rooting for Greg Allen, but one more bat, like you said, with Adam Jones or Marwin or whomever, I think would have made the fan base feel better, and it would also make the roster look better. What if Greg Allen struggles out of the gate and he's got options and you got to send him down again? Then what are you going to do?
You're essentially, as we are sitting here today, Leonis Martin is your best outfielder, right? He's coming off of basically almost dying, and now we're expecting him to come back, play center field, and continue on basically, which was the best half season of his career when he was having for the Tigers before he was dealt here. So I personally am shocked that it's gone this way. The one thing I will say about the outfield is it can't possibly be any worse defensively than it was last year. I mean, you had I'll say basically two and usually three minus defenders at all times. Banking on Tyler Naquin,
Baquin.
Tyler Naquin.
Ooh, yeah. You're still not over the drop play in Game 6.
I mean, I'll never get over it. I won't. Never. How about that?
It's a great bit.
I can't. I know, but you know what? It's still hard for me to get over.
I think Tito saw something in him last year at the start of the year when he was hot and he was hitting the baseball. But again, he was hitting 8th or 9th or whatever it was.
Well, that's the whole point.
And
these guys are going to be counted on here. Leonis Martin, my guess is we'll be hitting second, right? But that 5 through 9, you could throw names throw darts on a dartboard and hit who are you going to place where. Jake Bauers, I believe, will hit 5th, but really 6 through 9, all of these guys are the same, right? And someone's going to have to step up, or else it's going to be automatic outs at the bottom of the order. And I still believe that I don't know why anybody would throw Jose Ramirez anything in the zone until these guys behind him are going to be able to prove otherwise.
Dery Brothers Podcast, first edition here, talking Tribe. Dery Brothers Tribecast, excuse me. I'm waiting for next year.
Tribecast. Come on.
I don't care about any other team.
That's right.
But let's.
One and only.
Although, what Syracuse basketball, Jim Boeheim will coach on Saturday night against Duke. How about that? I don't want to get into that. Why did I bring that up?
No comment.
Anyway, here's the other thing. Let's give us the list. Give the listeners a list of guys, because quite honestly, if we get into March and this list is still the same, somebody's going to take the Indians $2 million deal, $2 million offer, $3 million offer. You got to figure there's somebody on that list that can be that bench bat, extra bat, right-handed bat. We can go back over the great old bit.
Stink, your favorite?
The right-handed power bat. But who's on that list that is still left?
You know who the Indians should have signed, who just basically got 1 year and $2 million from the Tigers for a team that's going nowhere, is Josh Harrison. Play him. You could have played him all over the diamond. He would have been the perfect super utility guy for this roster. Again, this goes back to the fact that I am completely befuddled at the plan for the front office's plan. But some of the names that are guys that are actually still out there, besides Adam Jones, you got Evan Gattis, who could immediately come in and DH, strikes out a ton, but has major power. And, obviously they don't need a catcher, but if you keep him on the roster and you need him to catch in a pinch, he can do that. Logan Morrison, who I can't stand.
No, don't even say that.
Yeah, I don't like him. But 2 years ago, he was very good. And really, it came down to were the Indians going to sign Logan Morrison or Yonder Alonso. Logan Morrison ended up going to the Twins and having a bad year, but he's available. Jose Iglesias at shortstop, your boy.
Sounds like he's going to the Reds on a minor league deal, which is stunning. But again, he's a clown. Wasn't well liked in the clubhouse and doesn't have a great reputation. But keep going.
But he's got a great glove, and he could.
He's a big league shortstop, right?
Listen, for not having Frankie Lindor potentially for the first however long at the beginning of the season, they say he's going to be ready by opening day. But you and I both know the Indians and the timelines for injuries, especially calf injuries. It's not exactly
above board.
It's right up there with the current administration. Anyways, he would have been good.
Which administration? The one in Washington?
No names, please.
Fake news.
Denard Span, outfielder. I don't know what use they'd have for him, but is Denard Span any worse than the current outfielders they have? Then you're getting down to Danny Valencia. Again, right-handed bat, can play third, can play corner outfield. A guy that's interesting that I think that is still out there that could be a good, bounce-back candidate is Carlos Gonzalez. Been on the Rockies forever. And then Carlos Gomez had a bad year last year in Tampa, but
he's a bit of a loose cannon.
Yes, he is. And I don't know about adding him to the mix here either. But, again, that's a guy that's out there.
Well, so here's what they're thinking, I think. And, again, they're not going to tell, the Indians are actually pretty transparent. They're pretty good, especially Tito, whether it's, his chats with reporters or radio hits or whatever that he's done. He's been pretty transparent. I truly believe, that Tito really likes Tyler Naquin, and he'll be the right fielder. Leonis Martin's going to be in center, and then you're right. Then you kind of battle it out and duke it out for left field. Left field could be Jake Bowers. Left field could be Carlos Santana if one of those guys isn't at first. Greg Allen, like you said, Jordan Luplow. Who am I forgetting? I'm missing one other person that could play.
Naquin? Matt Joyce?
Oh, yeah, Matt Joyce. That's another one who 2 years ago had decent OPS, but it's Matt Joyce. So I think they're hoping to throw a few of those things up against the wall and hope they stick, as opposed to, maybe they're looking at Marwin Gonzalez going, his OBP's down. I'm not giving a guy like that $11 million, but I think the Twins looked up and said, winning player, and the team that we're trying to catch, Marwin Gonzalez is, I think, lifetime like $299 with a 900 OPS against the Indians. He kills the Indians.
He kills us, and you put him, if he was on our roster right now, that's probably, a middle of the order bat immediately, right? And a guy that you could plug all over. Look at, if you go to the Twins, where the Twins are right now, right? They got Miguel Sano at third, Jorge Polanco, who's coming off a good year at short. Scope will play second. They got C.J. Cron, who they added at first. and then they got Eddie Rosario, all-star in the outfield. You know, if Byron Buxton can ever find his form in center field and Max Kepler in right. And then you got Nelson Cruz DH, and you can basically play Marwin at third if Sano has fallen off the table. You can play him at short to give Polanco a blow. You can play him at second if Scope doesn't work out. You can play him at first if CJ Cron doesn't work out. You can play him in corner outfield, and they can move Kepler to center field if they have to if Buxton doesn't work out. So it's just a perfect guy for the Twins, and it would have been for the Indians. You would have been perfect. You could have moved him all over the diamond, give all these guys rest.
I don't think the Indians wanted to spend $11 million or $10.5 on a utility player. Maybe they just don't think that their scouts and their front office people with Antonetti and Chernoff don't believe that any of these guys that are on this list or even were on the list earlier, like you mentioned with Josh Harrison, maybe they don't think they're any good. I don't know. Would they be willing to watch Nick Castellanos for the first couple of months in right field in Detroit and then make that trade for him? He'd be a bat that'd be perfect that I would put a DH if I were the Indians. But again, does Nick want a DH? No, he wants to have a position, especially when he's going to be shopping himself and showcasing himself this offseason. So that's a name to watch. But again, I think right now, I don't think they want to trade for him at this moment. I think they want to take a very long look during spring training in April at any of these young guys and give them a shot, then hope Zimmer gets healthy, and then they feel like they'll have a young outfield that everybody thought sucked back in March and February that's going to surprise people. That's what I think they're thinking.
I would have no problem with this line of thinking if we weren't coming off of, basically ran away with the division last year and the World Series the year before, three straight championships in the AL Central, a World Series, the best team in baseball the following year, and then last year they did what they did. I wouldn't have a problem with it if they were just a rebuilding club and they were throwing all these young outfielders out there. But when you have what we have and they are just going to hope something sticks, I just don't understand that. If it was Brantley and hope something sticks in the other two positions like it was last year, I could probably find myself living with it more because, as you know, like you, I'm a big apologist of this front office. But to do what they are doing, just especially with this outfield, to me is absolutely an egregious mistake. And let's wait until we make a trade. We're built. This organization, the Indians, are built a certain way. You have to draft and develop, and you have to develop these guys, and you're not signing free agents, obviously, right? So if that's the case, then why are you going to be trading prospects for Nick Castellanos or whoever it might be? Well, last year we were hoping they were going to upgrade and make a trade, and all they ended up doing was adding Leonis Martin, and he ended up playing like 6 or 7 games before.
Brad Hand. I mean, Hand and Simber.
I'm talking about in the outfield.
Right, I see what you're saying. Yeah. All right, Pacoda and Fangraphs. Let's get into this here on this Dery Brothers inaugural Tribecast. Todd, you've got the numbers. It was a bit of a scare this morning on Twitter when the beat guys were saying, oh, my goodness, Fangraphs has the Indians going from 91 wins to, 80? Is that right?
80 and 82 was the original.
And then they fixed it. Pacoda, which is PECOTA, they're another one of these analytical groups. They have the Indians winning how many games?
So Pacoda has the Indians at 96 and 66.
No, that's not happening.
If the Indians win 96 games, I'm starting in center field in October. So
if the Indians win 96 games, you're going to wear a MAGA hat. I don't even know if we'll go.
There's a better chance of the Indians winning 96 games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know how 96 is even. I mean, Pacoda's obviously banking on the fact. And by the way, this came out before Marwin Gonzalez was signed by the Twins. I don't know what that does to the Indians number, but basically Pacoda and Fangraphs, who have the Indians at 90 wins, are banking on the fact that this division is going to be just as bad, if not worse, than it was last year, right? So,
yeah.
But 96 is. I don't see any path to 96 with that lineup. I just don't.
I'm looking at the division, and obviously with the unbalanced schedule and the way it goes, and I forget who we play interleague. My show prep today, my show prep was a C-, But you look at interleague and the schedule and everything else, and obviously the Indians are going to beat up again on the Kansas Cities and Detroits of the world. The question with the White Sox will be if these young guys come up, the Kopechs of the world, will Daniel Palka do what he did last year? Will the White Sox be better than what they were a year ago? The Twins are obviously going to be much better. Minnesota got ravaged with injuries early in the year. Sounded like Molitor lost control a little bit. But you had two huge Indian killers in Nelson Cruz and Marwin Gonzalez, and they're winning players. So that to me is a bit scary. Now, Minnesota's rotation, I think it takes a hit with them letting Irvin Santana walk. Not that he's Cy Young, but he's pretty decent. I've never been a Kyle Gibson fan. You got it in front of you. Who else am I forgetting as far as the Twins rotation?
So their top five.
Obviously, Barrios is good.
Barrios is their ace. Kyle Gibson. They're hoping for the return of Michael Pineda. They signed him, coming off of surgery 2 years ago, and now he's healthy. Jake Odorizzi, who's good fourth starter, and then Mejia, the left-hander, is their fifth starter. So I know, I've been getting a lot on Twitter when I've been complaining about the Twins, and a lot of say, "Oh no, they're not doing anything with that rotation."
Right. No, it's definitely terrible? Weak.
No, I've definitely seen worse.
Kyle Gibson had a good year last year. I think we hit him pretty well, but I think he's serviceable.
Yeah, he had his best year last year, but I don't think he's that great. Where I think the Indians may be able to get at the Twins is, their best relief pitcher still is your boy Addison Reed, who, as the Indians fans know, Tribes owned him forever at every stop he's had. They added Blake Parker, who I like a lot, for like $1.6 million for 1 year. Trevor May, Taylor Rogers, the left-hander, is good, and then Hildenberger is probably going to close for them, I believe. That's why they've also been, not that this is going to happen, but they've been rumored to be sniffing around Kimbrel too if he'll take a 1 year deal. But they also have the new manager Rocco Baldelli, right?
Yeah, never done it before, so.
Nope. Man, it's not that red-ass Molitor anymore.
I'm gonna miss seeing Molly in the other dugout.
Me too.
Loved beating him.
Mr. Unwritten Rules himself.
That's right. Where's that? Where's that hipster Tito gif of Molitor waving off Jose Ramirez?
So you were talking about the interleague schedule for the Indians, the teams they play. It's the NL East. So you get the Marlins, the Mets. There's a week in August where the Indians play in New York for 7 straight days of Yankees and Mets, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Matt Dery, Todd Dery. So if Pacoda says 96 and Fangraphs says, and they changed it and fixed it, what, 91?
It was 90.
90. The way this team is constructed right now, and God bless them, I hope they do it, but I don't see 90 wins. I just don't. But that doesn't mean they're not going to win the division. I still think they're going to. I still think this is about pitching. And when you can trot out, Trevor Bauer to me may win the Cy Young this year. I mean, he's that crazy, he's that nuts, but he's that good. Carlos Carrasco, I read something the other day about his velocity being down, but he's got 4 or 5 plus pitches. His stuff is unreal, and I think Corey Kluber's got a lot to prove this year. Dangling him out there in trade talks for a couple of months. Hopefully that lights a fire under him. Not that he doesn't have fire anyway. Clevenger's really good. My goodness, we could talk about Shane Bieber and Adam Plutko. Plutko as a 6th starter would be is a good guy to have as a swing guy in case somebody gets hurt. Knock on wood. The rotation, that's still where you win, Todd. That's still where you butter your bread.
I agree. And I do. Listen, I don't want the people out there to think that I don't think we're going to win the division, because I do believe we will. That said, and with that rotation, Shane Bieber, you put him on most teams, and he's probably more like a number 3 on most of these teams in the American League, other than the big contenders. I mean, people would, that's a guy other teams would love to get a chance to get at. So I like this rotation a lot. And as I said earlier, I think they've, we were talking about the throwing up a bunch of guys against the wall and see who sticks outfield. That which usually doesn't work that way. I think the Indians really did a nice job of amassing a bunch of relievers that are in a similar position. I mean, Tyler Clippard's a nice addition there at this point in the season to be able to grab him, and basically for a minor league contract. I mean, he's got a nice track record behind him. I obviously it's going to be very interesting to see how Hand is as his full year as the closer. But this is a total changing of the guard in the we've been so used to basically Shaw, Miller, and Allen for a 3-year period, and then and Otero and all that. And now you're looking at a whole new crop of guys, and they had to. If you would have told me, what's interesting is at the beginning of last year, we all, you and I had this conversation many times, which was, well, they better do it this year because Cody and Miller are going to be gone. Cody and Miller were essentially gone last year.
They were terrible. They weren't good. Like that, the bullpen was not good last year, and yet the Indians still won the division. And I know they got swept in the playoffs, and that's all anybody seems to want to talk about. But those two guys were burnt last year. They were done. The whole year. I'm interested
to see how Andrew Miller does in St. Louis because he hasn't been able to stay healthy the last 2 years, and the bite isn't there anymore. And Cody is another. That was my favorite part of that Bauer article was that Bauer claimed that he could fix Cody Allen's curveball in 2 days, but he didn't want to talk to him because he was a veteran.
I wonder how much, and let's get into this. I wonder how much Trevor Bauer was a distraction for the postseason last year. We know that there was the distraction with the guy in the jacket with the camera that was apparently spying on the Indians from the Astros. That was one thing. The Indians didn't go into the playoffs like they did 2 years ago on a high note when they had the long win streak. They were kind of limping in last year a little bit. And I think we were unsure and looked up and said, man, they're drawing Houston. And you and I both said it to each other and to everybody we talked Tribe with. Houston's really good. Like, this is going to be tough. And then they couldn't score runs, and the Garrett Cole game was what that was kind of the lost opportunity. But the Bauer thing was interesting because that was the one sideshow that went on that I think Trevor for the most part kept his mouth shut about it, but I think he wanted to start. I don't think he liked that role at all. Tito didn't really know how to massage it very well, and it blew up in their face. And so now it's like Bauer goes back to being in that rotation and being this very steady arm that I think will be an all-star and maybe even a Cy Young guy. And you throw that, but again, his antics and everything this offseason, I just wonder how much play that's going to get in that clubhouse this year.
It's what's interesting is, I don't pretend to know who's friends with who, okay? I mean, I can only know, I go by what I see in certain instances. Bauer and Clevenger obviously are close. You could see, and if you read the SI piece, you can tell that Bauer has been a real help to Clevenger and Shane Bieber as well. They listen to him and they're feeding off of him, which I don't think you can dispute that talking pitching. If you're on a staff and you get to pick the brains of Trevor Bauer and Corey Kluber every day, well, that can't hurt. Just put it that way. But was he a distraction during the playoffs? I mean, it wouldn't shock me one bit if he wanted to start and they put him in the bullpen and he said, listen, I'm going to do this and it is what it is and I'm going to throw what I want to throw and, be damned whatever happens. And it really did not work out too well. I still go back to the Kluber start where he was clearly showing signs of needing to come out I think it was through 4 and they left him out there too long where they could have gone to Bauer. But, I don't think Tito did his greatest job last year one way or another. It's hard to go into a season, into a postseason when you basically treated the entire season of 6 months as spring training, which is all the Indians did last year. And the one silver lining in the Twins getting better is that maybe they'll be in meaningful games and maybe it'll amp them up a little bit more to play with more of an edge rather than, oh, well, this division sucks. If we play like crap for a few weeks, so be it. We're still going to end up.
I've never been a believer in that. To me, if you're up 20 games, good. But I think that there's definitely some validity to it, and Minnesota has done enough this offseason that you definitely see a Team B or a 1A, 1B in this division, and that is the Twins. I mean, the rest of the division is terrible, but sure, Minnesota's That's a legit team they're putting out there. And if they get...
they let them get to B1B, though, Matt, is a real problem for me when it was something that the Indians could have added and instead sat there, did nothing while the Twins basically took.
Right, and they did.
As the Indians should have taken.
But again, Minnesota did a lot of subtracting at the deadline last year, including trading Brian Dozier, being lucky enough that Joe Mauer decided to retire. That was huge for Minnesota.
Good for the Twins. That was a plus.
No doubt. I mean, he was a glorified, singles hitter. He was, late career Singlio Ordonez, as he was known in Detroit.
Switzer, professional hitter from the left side. There you go.
But, the situation now, I understand what ownership is doing. I know no one likes it, but, trading Yan Gomes at the peak and ridding themselves of some of these contracts, including Edwins and everybody else. And you bring Santana back on, but you got some money from Seattle and Tampa. I get all that. It's because no one goes to the games. And the attendance should be higher than it is. I don't quite get it. I understand now LeBron's gone. A lot of the Cavs slappies had to force themselves into getting the tickets this year, thinking that maybe there was a chance he was coming back. So maybe next year people will take the money that they would have gone to an Indians game, and maybe they finally will, because the Indians are still putting out a big league product. The Cavs are not. That's a G League roster with Kevin Love. So, we'll see. But I know the fans are mad, but they've never. What's ownership supposed to do sometimes when they get one playoff gate? The game was over in the sixth inning. When the Astros poured on a bunch of runs, that hurts. And unfortunately, they don't have the kind of cachet that the Browns have, and that type of following, and that type of people spending money on them. And it's coming back to haunt them a little bit. It's not fair. It isn't.
I agree. Listen, you and I are both Tribe first guys, as you know.
We're in the major minority.
Major minority, but it's just not like that in this town. I mean, we on another podcast, I like to get into attendance talk because I truly loathe the conversation. I understand it, and it's it's the old adage: we're not going to tell people how to spend their money and yada yada yada. But you're hosting the All-Star game this year. You're going to be able to showcase your city and your stadium, and the fact that you've basically decided to do nothing with your team because the rest of the division sucks is a real problem for me, and I continue to come back to that. Listen, I could be way off, and then all of a sudden, we jump out of the gates 20-5, and nobody can hit our rotation, and we're winning games 3-1, and I'll be happy as a clam. But I don't know. I'm just very, very concerned with that 5 through 9 in this order, and I don't think that sitting back and waiting till the trade deadline to make additions is a smart play. That's just me.
All right, man. That was fun. First of many, hopefully, here with.
Let's try to do this as much as possible and get some good bumper music, hopefully. And
I have no time. I barely had time to do this today. I'm on the case.
All right, you are the best.
All right, there he is. All right, Todd Dery, Matt Dery. This has been the first installment of the Dery Brothers Tribecast on this Friday, February 22nd. We'll talk to you again down the road. Go Tribe. Peace.